Hello, everyone. I'm Psychic Medium Chris George, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Victor the Voice Fuhrman and Jeremy Adams. Oh, let me just shut this down. Hold on, I'm sorry. There we go. How come this ain't going off? All right. Give me 1 second, people. Okay, here we go. Hello, everyone. I'm Psychic Medium Chris George, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Victor the Voice Fuhrman and Jeremy Adams. Welcome to our show, Vision Quest, where we will try to unleash the power of your mind. It is February 21st, and we're airing live on dtmwickerradio.com, and we want to thank everyone for being here with us tonight. Our call-in number is 818-431-8214. And I want to know why I can hear myself in this. It's kind of annoying. But anyway, this is going to be a very interactive show. Each week we will bring on a different person to join us in our discussion on the week's topics and take calls as well. Our call-in number 818-431-8214. And that's and anybody could call in. If you want to call in and just listen that way, that's fine. You call in with questions. We will absolutely take your questions. So think about it, call in, we'll have a great time. My fan page is Psychic Medium Chris George. Victor's fan page is Victor the Voice Fuhrman. And we have a couple other little things to throw out there. My website is chrisgeorgesecondsight.com. We have adamsvisionquest@gmail.com, and that's where people can send in their odd news for the week. We have a Vision Quest group page. If you get on Facebook, just look for Vision Quest, and you can join our group page. We have a very interesting agenda tonight. We have odd news with Jeremy. We have the thought of the week from Victor, and our guest tonight, people, is one of the people that I respect absolutely the most in this world. For those of you who know me from Second Sight, our guest, Sorceress Cagliostro, has been on the show, I would say at least 3 times, maybe 4, I'm not sure. And you have to understand, I've been doing radio for 3 years. I've done, I would say, close to 200 interviews, okay? 200 interviews. She is my favorite guest of all time, all right? And you'll see why, when we bring her on. Some of you may not agree with her, and that's fine, because to tell you the truth, she don't give a damn. And that's one of the things I love most about her. I guess what we should do now, Victor, are you with us? Okay, Victor isn't with us. Sorceress, are you with us?
I am.
Sorceress.
Thank you for it.
Oh, Sorceress, thank God you're here. And you sound a little bit low, by the way. Could you turn your mic up a little bit?
Is that any better?
Yeah, that's a little bit better. How about Jeremy? Jeremy, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here, but Jody is telling us that we have no sound on Blog Talk Radio whatsoever.
All right. Well, I'm sure Denny will get that.
Blog Talk's working, guys. Just tell her to refresh it, please.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Jody, what you have to do is put it in the chat room, Jeremy, that you just have to refresh.
All right.
Anyway, I'm sure Victor will be with us momentarily. This show tonight is a show that I've been looking forward to all week. Earlier in the week, we put up that we were supposed to have a woman on. Her name is Tamara Cosentino, and she's somebody I actually did an exorcism for. As I was posting this, Sorceress Cagliostro commented on my post, and I thought, you know what? There is nobody better to be on this show than Sorceress. So I reached out to her, and she graciously said yes. And then, I don't know if you guys realize how much respect I have for this lady. When she said yes to me, my enthusiasm for this show went from 100% to 200%, because nobody knows demons the way our guest does. And just to let you know what she's about, this is what she wrote me when she decided that she was going to be on the show. She wrote, "I am very much looking forward to talking about demons with you in a fearless way." And what other way is there to talk about demons? There are a lot of radio shows out there, people, and most of them suck. I'm going to tell you point blank. Most of them don't even belong on the radio. To have her come on the show and talk about this subject fearlessly the way she does, for those of you who need to know about exorcisms and possessions and demons, There's nobody better to listen to than this lady. So I know Victor isn't with us yet, so I don't have anything to read on her, but I think I pretty much explained who she is. Sorceress, are you with us?
I am with you, Chris. Thank you for that. That was tremendous. I'm always happy to be part of a discussion about Lucid Journal.
Well, you know how I feel about you and the respect I have for you. I would love for you to let our listeners know a little bit about you before we even get on with this.
Sure. Thank you, Chris. I've been doing this work for decades. I consider myself a person in 100% service to the disincarnate. That work has brought me into a lot of different areas. When I say I've been in service to the disincarnate, I've been a trade embalmer, I've been involved in autopsy work, I've been involved in forensic destruction. I've been involved in every manner of work that can affect the human experience and death. I took that work then further and decided that I would sort of explore the science of sorcery, which brought me to a broader gaze about necromancy and the working with the disincarnate and individuals who want to communicate with them. And then as that work grew, it got bigger and bigger and bigger for me, and then I explored this opportunity of looking at sorcery and physics and wrote the first book, Sorcery, which is really just about
Outstanding.
What?
Oh, no, I was just saying, outstanding. Sorceress, this whole week, people have been sending in question after question, and I have, I would say about, I don't know, Jeremy, what do we have, about 20 questions that listeners have sent in for us?
Yes, that's exactly right, 20 questions.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to get some call-ins and questions from the chat room. So, Sorceress, now, all right, people have different ideas of demons, okay? When you say you work with demons, what are demons to you? Because, people ask me, what are demons? There are different types of demons. You have, different types of to you, what is a demon?
Well, I'll tell you, Chris, because my work is very clear that I have no connection to divinities or deities of any kind. To me, a demon is a very different thing than a lot of people have suggested it to be. My understanding of demons, and my understanding of demons comes from my communication with them, is that they are an amalgam force and energy of chaos, stress, anxiety, negativity, people's fear, all manner of things that are difficult for the human mind to process, and that they come together in this forceful energy. The longer this energy stays contained in, I would say, sort of a spin of itself, contained in the energy of it acting up against resistance, then the more defined it becomes. And as it becomes more defined, it becomes an entity with some sort of intellectual capacity, and people can then fall upon it to ask for either favors or some sort of important communication.
Okay. Jeremy, do you have something you want to ask Sorceress?
Yes, I do. Have you ever... What are the worst things that have happened to you during an exorcism when you've performed one?
Well, for me, demon work, one of the areas in which I deal with demons is exorcism. I don't go far to the point here. I both invoke them and disperse them when necessary. During an exorcism, I've been injured, I've had been burnt, I've had what felt like sand thrown in my eyes, I've been pushed. One time I felt as if I had been bitten very hard, and then I realized that there was no mark there. All manner of being pushed around. I still think the worst thing that's ever happened in terms of disorientation was the time that I felt completely spun around in the other direction during the work. I kept turning forward towards where I wanted to focus my energy. And so 3 or 4 times I was reversed in that way, turned backwards against where I wanted to focus my energy. So I felt like for a moment that demon, that energy had more control than I had finding that energy to have that experience. So I had to adjust my participation in these things.
Well, You know what? I want to answer that as well. But before I answer that question, so I think it's important to talk a little bit about exorcism because this is like a huge topic. This is something that people argue about all the time. You know, what is an exorcism? Who can do an exorcism? Do you have to be a Catholic priest to do an exorcism? And this is where I'm sure you do too, where I come under a great deal of fire, you know, controversy and all that because I'm Catholic, although I don't go to church and all that, but I've been brought up Catholic. I've been baptized in communion and confirmation, as have my kids. But and this is where I get in trouble. This is where I start getting the hate mail from people who are very religious. I'm a big believer that the Catholic way of doing an exorcism is basically obsolete at this point. I don't think it works. I think it's more of a Band-Aid than a fix. And I say that because, you know, what's a Band-Aid? It's something that covers something up before it heals, all right? And that's what it is. You know, I feel like the priests go in there and they do their rites of exorcism. They pray, they throw their holy water in there, you know, church incense, and they say, okay, you know, they do a few chants, and everything is all good. That's a bunch of baloney. You know, maybe hundreds of years ago that worked, but I'm a big believer that as time has gone on, I feel that evil in the world has gotten more prevalent. It's become worse because there's so much negativity. There's so many bad things in the world, and I think it builds up. So I think that what used to work hundreds of years ago doesn't work anymore. You know, and I like to equate it to the television. You know, 25 years ago, my father used to tell me, Chris, get up and put on Channel 7. Chris, get up and put on Channel 2. And here we are 25 years later, I'm sitting down at my chair with, you know, my couch with my, you know, remote control, and I could just click it. Why? Because things have evolved. They've gotten better. There are better ways to do things. And when I do an exorcism, me personally, it has nothing to do with the Catholic religion. I don't pray, although I protect myself, but I don't pray. I mean, people who come with me might pray, but that's strictly up to them. What I do is I actually invite the spirit into me, and I break down the energy, as, you know, as best I can until there's nothing left. And at the end, however long it might take, it's taken me as little as, I would say, 2 hours and as many as 17 hours to do an exorcism. At the end, the spirit or the demon or the whatever, the entity can either say, all right, I want to be forgiven, and you can pass them on, or no, and we just destroy it, and that's that. When I talk about this, inevitably, I'm like, tomorrow I will get emails saying, Chris, you're the Antichrist. How dare you say, you know, the Catholic way of doing exorcism doesn't work, you know, and I'll get called all kinds of names and whatnot. Sorcerers, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, and I feel that you probably come under the same scrutiny. What do you say to people when they say stuff like that to you?
Well, I will tell you, Chris, people have become less and less willing to attack me without cause. And I don't know if that's because my reputation precedes me or not, but whatever it is, I'm grateful for it. I do get an enormous amount of email and messages saying, I disagree with you, I want to talk about that kind of thing. If you want me to answer your question about how it is that I do an exorcism, let me just say, to your point, I think that the idea of the Catholic exorcism is beyond outdated. First of all, I want to make it very clear. Catholics do not own possession, so therefore they could not own exorcism.
Thank you. No. Thank you very much for saying that.
It is a ridiculous idea that any one group has this issue, and you know they should really be excited about hearing that, because if they did specifically own possession, that would mean that their members are weak enough to be in that position exclusively. So therefore, that doesn't make any sense. The other side of that is when one swears upon a Bible, one has to believe in it, and unless you come across a demon that happens to be of that faith, which is not actually possible, and the demon does not grasp the concept of dogma, then therefore that is an irrelevant experience, an irrelevant exchange. You can't punch somebody with something they can't feel or see.
Exactly. Jeremy asked the question, what's the worst thing that has ever happened during an exorcism? I would have to say for me, I actually got thrown down a flight of steps. And luckily for me, I have a brother-in-law who's about 6'4", 320, and he actually caught me, so I got very lucky. I've been pushed, I've been launched, I've had stuff come off of walls and hit me. I've thrown up. I've done other things that I don't want to talk about. I've had some pretty bad things happen to me, but I gotta say, really the worst was for me. I did an exorcism one time, and anybody who knows me on Facebook has seen the picture of that picture of a demon that we caught. I got so sick after that. That was a 17-hour exorcism. I got so sick after that exorcism that I had flu-like symptoms for 7 days. The people that were there with me, assisting me on that exorcism, there were 6 of them. They had flu-like symptoms each for 3 and 4 days. I would say that that's probably the worst that has happened to me. Now, before we go on, Victor, are you with us?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Well, good evening, and I want to say a special good evening. Hi, Sorceress Cagliostro.
Hello, Victor. How are you? It's so good to hear your voice.
It was good to hear your voice, too. It's good to be heard, actually. And I think there is a demon present in the servers tonight because Skype was doing some very strange things to me, and my computer actually shut off and came back on by itself. So, but I'm happy to be back. And since I didn't have a chance to give you a proper introduction, I'd like to do that now. Our special guest tonight is our friend Sorceress Cagliostro, the necromancer, mummifier, blood sorceress, magnetic sorcery researcher, teacher, author, lecturer, embalmer, forensic reconstructionist, and consigliere to the disincarnate. And since you've been on last time, you have 2 books that are brand new since our last appearance with you. And one is Blood Sorcery Bible Volume 2, Striking the Target, and 26 Daemons Revisited, 2nd edition expanded, which I believe just came out this month. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, it's about 6 or 7 days ago. So.
Wonderful. Congratulations. And having read both of the original books, I'm sure these are great, and I can't wait to get my hands on them and read these also. So now that I've done the introduction, back to the interview.
You guys will have
all right.
I'll send them out to you. I'll make sure you get a copy of those.
Thank you so much.
Well, I have a question for both Chris and Sorceress.
Okay.
Do you record either video or audio of the exorcisms that you perform?
Sorceress, you go first, please.
Go first and second on that.
Okay. I'm sorry, I kind of went out there for a second. I was saying, please, you go first.
Oh, okay. I do on occasion more audio than anything else. I find the energy of electronic devices to be a distraction to me. This is always catch-22 for me, because the less electronics that are around, the better I feel in the experience. So we will do some audio, and we have on occasion done some video. Stills I'm a big fan of, because that doesn't feel as much as some chaotic, really electronic energy. When I deal with demons, and there are 2 kinds of exorcisms, to deal with demons and or to deal with disincarnate, which is a different process. Maybe we have a minute to talk about that today. I find that when I'm dealing with demons, the last thing that I'm concerned about is catching it so much in evidence. But now it seems that people are requesting that a little bit more, even the people for whom I'm doing the process. So we're working on a way to have some very non-intrusive recording devices going on. And to your point, Victor, the interesting thing is I teach online classes. I teach quite a few of them. And when we discuss demons, I do find that there is some interruption. My core students, I have 8 core students, they will attest to the fact that when we're doing a class involving a discussion of demons, there is less perfect reception of use.
Vic, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say the fact, number one, I admire the fact that you said it's more important to actually do the work than have a recording of it. But I'm wondering the fact that your deep connection with blood, obviously, whether or not the electromagnetic fields that are generated by all types of electronic recording devices would interfere with your work.
I have a very difficult relationship with electronic devices. I don't have your iPad. Somehow, I take a product and I can destroy it when I'm being near it. I'm very much in tune with all the electromagnetic opportunity in our blood, and because I am so in control of my blood and able to get it to the surface and put it back down, I learned to control it and not get in a difficult situation of electronics as much as I used to. But it is still a problem. It definitely is. And to get anything about magnetics, I'm always so able to feel the magnetic field around me that, it's like it interrupts sometimes the experience of me and electronic equipment.
Just as an aside, I found throughout my life I cannot wear a wristwatch, no matter whether it's digital or mechanical. If I put on a wristwatch, it'll be dead within 2 days. And so I don't wear wristwatches. I haven't worn a watch in 20 years. Do you have that problem also?
Yes, I can't wear anything that has to maintain any sort of electrical or even wind-up mechanism consistently.
Right.
Especially in your pulse. Your pulse points are still on your wrist are enormous. The modern human being doesn't understand that is one of the original ways to communicate with each other was through our pulses and how powerful that is. And if you work with resistance, your pulse is pushing outward. This watch thing is trying to function. It's epidemic. It's a real problem a lot of people have. You would be surprised when you talk to people about it, how many people cannot keep an electronic device against the pulse point.
Yep.
Well, on the issue of videotaping or audio, I videotaped quite a few. Not all of them. I actually stopped videotaping because it's kind of disturbing to me, to tell you the truth. When I see some of the things that I do and say and how my body moves, and I'm a big guy, and my body, my body's not supposed to move the way it does sometimes when I'm doing an exorcism, and it actually became very disturbing to me to watch. And so even when we do videotape, I really don't watch all that much. Maybe a certain part where something specific happened. That being said, I believe that we put some major fines when we were videotaping. And Victor, for one, the one that we did at Lewis's house when I was channeling, and I felt like the spirit was pulling on me, and I pushed away, and you pulled, and next thing you know, we have a video of the face on your freaking shirt.
Yep.
None of us would have ever seen that if we didn't videotape it. We put that out on Facebook. People go crazy when they look at that, because it's pretty indisputable. It's like, oh my God, there's an actual face on Victor's shirt. How did that happen? It can happen. But you know what? It did. So little things like that. For those reasons, I like videotaping at times. But for the plain fact to see what I go through. Now, Victor, you've seen. You've done a few exorcisms with me at this point, probably 6 or 7 or 8. Really, if I had to watch what goes on with me, how disturbing is that, really?
I get very concerned when you... Go ahead, Sorceress.
If I might add, I'm very much a purist about this energy, this human energy. When I'm summoning or evoking, I'm happy to have recordings of that and to allow for there to be documentation of that. When I'm doing an exorcism for either a possession or an inhabitation, and I understand those procedures of things, one much more severe than the other, I don't necessarily want a record of that image. Because to me, the destruction of that or the removal of that is final. And when one revisits it, because my work is based on the idea of triggers in the human mind, and that those triggers are thoughts and intentions, and those thoughts and intentions have a physiological weight, which therefore produces an outcome, I don't want to see those as again. And, you know, when people talk to me about doing TV and whatnot, I say, well, here's the problem. You can talk to the people who I removed that from, but I don't want to see that entity again. Maybe that works against me in terms of the media, but it works for me in terms of the theory of how I see the work to be done.
Right. Absolutely. Go ahead, Victor.
Well, what I've experienced with you, Chris, is actually I've been quite afraid sometimes, not because of the presence of the entity or spirit, but your heart. And one of the things that I've done when we've done this work together is while you're in the throes of dealing with the entity or energy, or whatever the spirit might be, I've been protecting your heart because I was concerned numerous times that your heart was being attacked, and so that's where I would stand. But you writhe. I've seen you writhe on the floor like a worm. I've seen you get up and do some type of what must have been some type of ancient dance. There's a number of manifestations that happen when you do the work that you do. And I, as your partner, I feel very much a protector energetically and physically for you.
Well, you do a great job, but Sorceress, and you do a really great job, I should add. Sorceress, when you're doing an exorcism, is there ever, you have people there actually looking out for you, watching you, making sure that you're safe while you're doing it?
I'll tell you the level of trust that I have, Chris. I have 13 attending demons, numbers 1 through 9, and 4 others, and they are with me. And I don't really allow for too many other living human beings to the place. 9 is my main attending demon, and I have a relationship with him that is not only sort of one of the mind. I can physically touch him. He can physically touch me. There have been a number of occasions in which he's met between me and what I think would probably have been a full-on devastation. It's just us. And there are occasions in which somebody will come with me and do this work with me, and more often than not, the only way I'll do that is to learn the work. I'm very much more so a solo practitioner than not. I also have my technique is to stay very still. So whatever is happening is coming at me. And my attending demons are my bodyguards. I work from a static point, that's the static practice. And all the work that I do comes from that solid place. I don't have the particular experience that you do. I mean, I think that we get almost the same result, but we have a very different technique. I don't take the demon in. I make the demon work really hard to try and get in and exhaust it that way.
Interesting. Very interesting. Jeremy, I know you had a question?
Yes, I actually have a couple questions. Number one, what are demons? And number two, why do some people and places become possessed and some don't?
That's a great question. Sources, why don't you take the demon question, which I think we kind of answered already, but if you want to just rehash that, and then we could both, or all of us could actually talk on the other one.
Sure. Demons are not the disincarnate. I want to make this really clear. An individual or a state can be possessed or inhabited. Possessed means full attachment. Inhabited means not a full attachment, but a usage of the non-physical entity of the physical entity on occasion. And a disincarnate being a formally living human being is a different kind of entity to deal with. But a demonic presence is one that has become what it is as a result of an amalgam of encountering negativity, sorrow, pain, the fear of death, all other matters of fear, crisis, chaos, disease, startlement. All these things come together to essentially go somewhere. And it develops this amalgam of what I will use the word negativity so that people can grasp what I'm saying, but it is much more than that. It is a physical experience of that energy. And, you know, nobody can really say they have never felt a physical energy of sadness or physical energy of chaos. A lot of these demons come out of
Did I just lose everybody? Oh, I thought I just lost you. I apologize.
Right. A lot of these demons come out of events. In 26 Demons Revisited, I talk about, well, this is the same 26 demons, but I give more data and more experience of what I've done with them. And many of them come from mass destruction, they come from plane crashes, they come from sadness and loss, they come from all manner of things. They're not an entity per se, but they are an amalgam of those complex, chaotic energies.
Interesting. So, Chris, before we answer Jeremy's other question, I just want to throw something out there. Do you find that that people throw the word demon around like way too freely? I'll get people that call me and say, I have a demon in my house. Well, how do you know it's a demon? Where do you get your information from? Why is it a demon? And then I go there and, there's a spirit there. It's a negative spirit, but it's hardly demon. Do you find that happens so easily now?
Yes, of course. When people are calling you out of one place to one place only, fear. And right. I have my own idea about whether or not fear exists. Personally, I don't think fear exists. I think we are getting in a situation where we don't know what happens next. And that is a lack of convenience. And I have a theory on that, but that's maybe for another show. But my point being that people call because they are in a state of confusion, and they don't know what's happening in their house or in their body. So they don't want to say I'm possessed by a spirit or an entity or a human being. The word demon gets your attention, and I think that people don't really know what they have, the same way that people will go to a physician and say, I think I have a terrible disease, and they don't necessarily have that. So I think that they use the word demon quite freely, but I think it comes out of a case of a fear or trying to get their point across about how much comfort there is.
And what about the television shows where you get that moron Zach Bagans, he goes into place and I'm being attacked by a demon, and he next thing you know he's got a scratch on his back, which he probably did or whatever. I think that also plays into everything, because people see this moron jumping around and yelling and cursing at spirits like it's okay, and they're like, oh well, that's the way it is. And if he says that there's a demon in this house, well, I must have a demon in my house. And it blows my mind the way television has actually influenced people to believe that everything is a demon. It's unbelievable to me.
Well, Chris, we can't use TV as a baseline in our work. And you know that, and I know that. Can't use TV as a baseline in anything.
Right.
I will say, based on my theory that all thoughts, intentions, and desires have physical weight and therefore cause physical activity, I will say that this very bastardized version of what a demon is and using the language in the way that you're discussing, I agree with what you're saying, is definitely causing a rise, I think, in incidents. It's causing a rise in the chaos of this thing. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I agree with you completely. Jeremy, what was your second question? Was it why do people or places become possessed and others don't? Was that it?
Right, exactly.
All right. Well, Vic, you want to hit that one up?
Yeah, I think it has to do a lot. Number one, with self-esteem. I think it has to do with people not feeling themselves worthy of being protected and having their energy protected and their own personal field protected. I think it's people who perhaps get down on themselves a lot are opening themselves up. I think that people who dabble in things that they really are not familiar with and haven't studied are open to this. So I think there's a number of avenues that, but it's I don't think Chris and Sorceress may disagree with me on that, but I don't think there's such a thing as involuntary possession. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm a big believer that. Go ahead, Sorceress, please.
No, go ahead, Chris. I'll follow you. Go ahead.
Well, I'm a big believer that and I've done many. I don't want to throw a number out there, but it's a lot. And what I find is most of the people that I wind up doing exorcisms for have some type of addiction, whether it be to alcohol, to drugs, to pain pills, Xanax, stuff like that. People that have, like Victor said, low self-esteem. People who give away their self. People who, and it could be addictions to sex. It could be addictions to gambling. It could be addictions to anything. People who give away a piece of themselves are leaving themselves vulnerable. Okay, that's why you see people that are very depressed. You see people in the streets, for instance, like in Manhattan. You go down Broadway, you see these Bowery bums or whatever, and they look like they have a demon in them. You know what? it might not be demon, but I definitely believe it's an attachment. Okay, now we're going off into a whole other avenue. But people who have addiction and people who have a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, I feel are much easier to attack for a negative spirit or a demon or an evil entity, whatever you want to call it, than somebody like me who I don't do drugs. I'll drink on the weekends. I enjoy my scotch, but I'm no alcoholic. I don't take any pills for depression or anything. They're not coming after somebody like me. They're not coming after somebody like Jeremy or Victor or Sorceress, because we're strong. We have a very powerful constitution. It's the people with the weaker constitution that these spirits pick on. And I see it clearly. Go ahead, Sorceress.
I think there are three categories. I think the first one is very much in alignment with what you're saying, that there is a weakness, and the demon or the entity sees that weakness, observes that weakness as a portal, and enters that individual in their experience of time at the moment, and enjoys the ability to use them via that weakness. On the flip side of that, demons who have been around a long time and have a higher ability to be in touch with their intellectual capacity, their ability to think, are looking for quite the opposite. And I think that when you look at those kinds of possessions, they become not just possessions, but almost like partnerships. And those possessions are not necessarily as obvious, not as wily, if you will, not as disorienting, but very real. When you see people of a higher intellect who suddenly change their personality, or who suddenly change something about themselves that was really core to who they are, these things happen in a much more subtle manner now. If you had asked me 10 years ago, I wouldn't have said I've seen as many of those. I'm seeing more and more of those now. And in the third category is children. I'm seeing possession in children now in a way that I had not seen a decade ago or more.
I agree with that. I see children getting attacked more than years ago.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the heavily medicated situation that our children are in. We can't have a child who just has a lot of energy or just maybe isn't perfect at math or any of those things. All of a sudden we have a child with a disorder, some kind of learning disability, and they must be medicated. Never, ever, ever have I put my own child in that situation. She is who she is, and I'm grateful for all of her individual traits. But I see, because I'm a parent, I see a lot of children who are medicated for reasons I cannot understand, even when you talk to their parents. So as a person is developing, and I'm talking about children as young as kindergarten, when those children are developing, they don't have the opportunity to develop their own power as boundaries because they are medicated. So I think that in that sense, is playing into the opportunity for very, very young people to become in a state of possession, which I think has a lot to do with the violence that our children are perpetrating on each other at this moment in history.
Absolutely. Vic, what do you have to say about that? I mean, I think she's spot on, actually.
I agree. And one of the things that I see a lot more today, I mean, we've always seen anger in our societies, in people in general, but I see so much more anger today than I've seen in a long, long time. People flying off the handle and screaming at each other. I saw something happen like that at the airport the other night, where a guy wanted a cab, and the dispatcher didn't exactly serve him the way he thought he should be served, and starts screaming at him in front of a lot of people, at the top of his lungs, and berating him. And this is the type of behavior that we see more and more recently, and I think this is indicative of what Sorceress is talking about.
Yeah, well, what about somebody just inboxed me on Facebook, and they want to know what are some of the symptoms of possession. Now, listen, there are so many. I mean, I could start rattling off some if you would like, and I will, only because you asked the question. But there are definitely things that you should look for if somebody is possessed or there's an attachment happening. It doesn't have to be a full-on possession. It could be an attachment happening, which then becomes a possession. And that goes into the whole progressive entrapment, which we could talk about a bit in a bit if you like. But if you think somebody's having an attachment or starting to have an attachment, you got to look for like changes in their personality. You have to, if they look like they're confused or they have like chaos in their life, feeling of being helpless, or they're stuck, or they have like blocks in their life. They're always depressed, exhausted, tired, low self-esteem, low self-worth. Like their life has no meaning. If they go on like that, if you feel like you're hopeless, those are the things that you need to look for. Also, people that are normally like in a good mood, all of a sudden, next thing you know, they have like a lot of fear and anger and rage, hate towards themselves and other people, guilt, anxiety. I mean, I could go on and on and on. People who never had addictions, all of a sudden they have addictions, obsessions, compulsions. I mean, Victor, should I go on or should I stop? I mean, I could keep going.
The only thing is, I think it's really important to differentiate between people who are going through psychological depression, people who are going through physical addiction, people who are having issues in their lives, and because there's a lot of people like that out there, and then people who actually have either attachment or some type of possession. Because not everybody who's depressed has an attachment or a demon. Not everybody who is addicted is that way. They're susceptible to it, but not everybody. So I think the question is, how do we differentiate between people who are going through mental or physical issues and people who have an attachment or a possession?
That's a great question.
Can I weigh in on that before we go there about symptoms?
Sure.
I find, and it's very interesting, Chris, because we both do this kind of work. There are a few other people who do this work that I actually accept that they do this work, and I think it's very interesting which clients come to which of us, because I find that what I notice more and more and more in symptoms of possession and or inhabitation, which we call attachment, is this sense of bravado, a sense of sudden courage, a sense of superhero aura, this kind of thing. I don't usually use the word aura, but just for want of another word, a sense of, suddenly being able to fly. This is the kind of thing I see quite a bit in individuals who are wind up actually being possessed and needing my services to reduce that entity, more so than sudden depression. So I think that the people that I see are people who have lived very middle-of-the-road kind of lives and suddenly think they're Superman. That, to me, is not something we should ignore.
Okay.
And then, Sorceress, what I would ask you then is how do you differentiate between people who are, for example, bipolar or manic in that situation and people who actually have some type of a possession?
Well, for me, Victor, I am grateful to say it's very simple to do. I sit with them, and if I can communicate with the demon, then there's one in there. And if I can't, then I say to them, it is my experience in this moment that I don't see that happen. Okay. I am extraordinarily good at admitting what I don't see. And that, I think, is why I'm respected in this work.
That's right.
If I don't see it, I don't see it. It doesn't mean the next person won't see it. They probably won't, because given my life experience, I'm probably as good a distance as anyone can be right now. However, I don't see it. So I'm not going to do an exorcism. And I would say, because I am not a physician, I would say, my experience is that I don't see a second party involved in this. Therefore, you should proceed in another direction with a mental health professional who can look at whatever it is that you're experiencing. I'm straight up the line forward about that.
And that is the ethic that anyone in this field should have. If a person doesn't have that ethic that you just so beautifully expressed, they shouldn't be doing this work.
I couldn't say it any better, and that's why she's so respected. And listen, there have been many times I've gone to a person's house where they told me that they're being attacked, and I go there and I talk with them and I investigate and I do what I do, and I know that there's nothing there, or if there is something there, it's not even close to what they're talking about, and I will not do the exorcism. And now, Victor, you talk about ethics in the field. The Sorceress, how many people actually do what we do? And let's forget the Catholic priests, because that's all a bunch of bullshit as far as I'm concerned, because they're not doing a real exorcism. I know they think they are. I know they say all these prayers help, but I know it, it doesn't work. So let's narrow it down to the people who actually do like physical exorcisms the way we do. How many people are there out there?
You know, it's interesting you ask this question, Chris, because many times when I'm called to do this work, I'm the third or fourth person they called, because the other ones didn't work. And I love those cases because when I'm done with them, it's over and it works. So I could not even imagine how many people are opposing to do this. I was telling you that in my experience, aside from myself and you, there are 4 other people that I have a genuine acceptance can do this.
Really? You see, now
thousands of people.
Now, I got to tell you something. See, with me, I know what I do, and I know what you do. After that, honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with everyone listening today. I don't know anybody who does what we do. And that's why, that's why I think people like yourself and me, and thank God I have Victor with me, because Victor's actually taught me so much. Now, not as far as, me actually doing the exorcism, but the other stuff that goes around it. He's brought so much more to my table, okay? I think that people like us, we really need to be very strong in our conviction, very stout when we say, listen, you don't need an exorcism, or you do need an exorcism. Because I look at us as like the last stop for help for these people.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you, Chris, and I will tell you that the other 4 people that I know, one of them lives in Wales, one of them lives in Canada, one of them lives in the United States on the West Coast, and the other one is in Scotland.
Wow.
And so I have a very, very global experience of this work, and I'm grateful for that, too, because, every day I learn something, and second you think you can't learn anything, it's time for you to pack it in. But those are the only other 4 people I know who do this work are in that place. So I would say that in America, there's 3 of us. The individual I know on the West Coast, and you and I. Because I know a lot of people who have gone to 3 or 4 people. First they call the religious element. They call their priest, their whatever they call their reverend. Then they call the local psychic, who comes in and smudges sage around their house, which, I'm not even going to bother going into that kind of thing. And then they wind up in the hospital, and they think they're mentally ill, and none of the medication works. And then somebody comes across my site, or your site, or one of these other people's opportunities to communicate with them, and they try that, and they go, oh, okay, well, that's what we're supposed to have.
Exactly.
Well, I have a question. Do you guys perform exorcisms alone, or do you bring somebody with you always to keep an eye on you? And if you do, have you ever had the spirit or demon try to attack your team member?
I have. Sorcerer said earlier. Yeah, Sorcerer said earlier that she pretty much works alone. How be for her demons. With her demons. Yes, with her attending demons. Me, I go in with a team, and I've actually had them. Victor has been attacked. I've had quite a few people be attacked. It's dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing. That's why. Now, see, the way Sorceress goes about it, she has her attending demons. There's a real built-in protection there. Okay? With me, I go in with guides and all, but I like to have other people around because I get very physical at times. Okay? Now, not that I've hurt people, but there have been instances where the people that have been there have been hurt. Victor has been attacked quite a few times, actually. Victor, why don't you talk about that?
Well, when you say attack, let me clarify that. The attack, what I found, first of all, I'm very attuned to energy. I'm very sensitive to energy fields. And the attack that Chris is referring to is a draining of my energy. The work that Chris does is very physical, and obviously being very physical, a lot of us have to do a lot of work around him in terms of physical work, but there's also energetic work. And what happens with me is in my extension of my energy field, working with Chris, my energy gets drained from time to time. Not always, but from time to time. The other experience that I had, which is really interesting, is one time I felt a tremendous amount of pain on my third eye, the area between the 2 eyes and the forehead. And I never had that happen before. That was that one time that we were together. Actually, it was at I can't remember the woman's, the one we've been back to a couple of times over in Staten Island.
You're talking about
that one time when you started seeing the entities crawling along the floor, it felt like a ball-peen hammer hit me right in the center of my forehead. And it took a few minutes for me to regain my composure and center myself. But, But when you say attacked, it's not like someone's come and clawed me or scratched me or something of that nature. It's more energetic than anything else.
Well, listen, it's an attack nonetheless. Now, sorceress, Victor just brought up something that happened at an exorcism that we did here in New York, and what was interesting about this, and this has never happened to me before, I'm curious to know what you think about this, and maybe if you even know what it was, because honestly, I still don't know exactly how to categorize it. There were these crawly spirits. I don't know how else to describe it, but they were low-lying spirits, and they were running all over the place, and that is actually what I was exercising. And at one point, I had about 30 of them in me at one time. Now, that had never happened to me before. I'm going to tell you the truth. I actually had to take a break to compose myself because I wasn't prepared for that. Embarrassing to say that I wasn't prepared, but I'd never seen that before. In the end, I took care of it, but do you have any idea what that could have been?
I refer to that as a splatter, Chris. An energy that is coming in and able to separate itself to cause further confusion. Those types of demons are extraordinarily old. They are very well versed in the ability to confuse human beings. I do genuinely think they have an understanding of human eyesight in a way, and they have a desire to create a presence of contamination where you just don't know where to look or what to do. And I've seen that 3 different times. Once I've evoked it to bring it in so I can look at it. It is a very, very devastating thing. But here's the thing about it is when you do the exorcism in a situation where you're dealing with what I refer to as a splatter, to remove one is to remove all. If you ever come into that circumstance again, you only have to focus on one of those moving objects. Because the thing is all attack. That makes sense?
What it makes perfect sense. What I found, and Victor, I'd like your opinion on this. They seem to work in perfect unison together. So when so from what you're saying, that makes perfect sense to me because it was almost like a ballet. I know that sounds crazy to say, but it was like they were really working together at a common goal to destroy me. Okay, and it was, if I was to look at it as a ballet, that's what it was like. It was like they were so in tune with each other, and then whatever happened after that. It was amazing.
You know, like when you see a model of a fly's eye, and you look through it, and you see many images doing the same thing.
Right.
It almost has that sense. It's slightly different than that, but it almost has that sense. But you're really only looking at one entity.
Well, that makes sense to me, and see, to me, that comes through as a demon of confusion because it tries to confuse you into thinking one thing when it's really something else, and that's something that people need to understand when it comes to demons and not just demons, but evil spirits, negative spirits. They're very tricky. They're very cunning. They're sly. They work on sleight of eye. They do shape-shifting. They'll show you, a cute little kitty cat, and the next thing you know, it's really something ready to devour you. I don't want to come off as so dramatic. I'm not a dramatic guy. But that's what happens with these spirits. I mean, Victor, sorceress, you guys could comment on that. You might not agree with me, but that's what I see.
Chris, we had that one experience.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, sorceress. Go ahead, please.
So I think that demons are the higher intellect because they are like anything else. There are the ones that are sort of low thinking, not really as evolved ones, and the ones with the higher intellect. They, I think, have an understanding of how the human mind works on some level, and they show you what to use in that process. They are able to shape-shift into your confusion, your fear, this sort of thing. that, your thoughts and ideas and intentions have weight. So those weights, that produces something. Demons are almost like a giant magnet to your energy, and they will be able to see on some level that which is confused you and reflected upon you. There is a huge planet demon that lives along the water on Water Street in Lower Manhattan, and I've seen it a number of times. And I've seen people sort of look like they're tripping and running in different directions and not even know it had happened. They tend to possess places more so than individuals. But they definitely know how to turn into something you don't want to see. I agree with you.
But, I was watching YouTube the other day, and I seen this Catholic priest performing remote exorcisms.
Oh, here we go.
And I thought that it was total bullshit. I mean, personally myself, I thought it was fake. What do you guys feel about that?
You want me to take that first, Chris?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
All right, okay. Listen, I have friends who are very into the metaphysical world. They're into angels and all that stuff, and they believe that you could do remote exorcism. I know you can. Now, Victor might disagree with me on this, and I'm curious to hear what he's going to say. But I'm a firm believer that it can't be done. And I go back to those morons, the demon doctors. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the demon doctors, but they're these two guys. They call themselves doctors. One's a hillbilly, one's some Indian guy from God knows where. You can't understand what the frig he's saying. And they do exorcisms, you ready for this, over the phone, okay?
Watch who you're calling a hillbilly.
Well, listen, you're a hillbilly, but you're my friend, so that's okay. You're a lovable hillbilly, But anyway, remote exorcism, as far as I'm concerned, it can't be done. And I say that because I know what it takes to do an exorcism. If a priest can't go in, or a shaman, or a rabbi, or a reverend can't go into a home and get rid of a spirit by doing all his prayers and his chants and all the ritual, how the hell are you going to do it remotely? I mean, give me a break. To me, it's a farce. Honestly, I feel very disrespected when I hear people say that they can do a remote exorcism. And I'd like to give you a little example. I have a friend. I won't mention her name. A friend. She's really not. I don't even consider her a friend anymore. Anyway, I was talking about, we were going to do an exorcism, and I told her all about what was happening in this house. She calls me up an hour later, and she says, and I'll never forget this. To this day, it makes my blood boil. She says to me, Chris, you don't even have to go if you don't want. I took care of it already. But you can go over there and put on a good show, like I'm some kind of sideshow act. And if I tell you disrespected, I felt so disrespected. I really wanted to jump through the phone and rip her throat out and show her what a real demon could do. I was so upset by that, because that's like and first of all, it's a slap in my face. It's a slap in my face to what I do, what I believe in, and what I'm friggin' outstanding at. And to tell me that you did it remotely, where you don't even, to me, it's absolutely asinine, and it's a disgrace. It's a disrespect to me, and it's a disrespect to somebody like Sorceress Cagliostro, who takes this work so seriously and knows what it means to actually perform an exorcism, knows what it takes, what goes into doing it, the energy it takes, how dangerous it is, and then you're going to say you did it, because you thought about it and the demon or the bad spirit is gone. You know what? Screw you. You don't know what the hell you're talking about, and I'd love to see you be put in a situation where a real exorcism is taking place, and I'd love to see if you can handle it with your little remote crap. That's what I think. I'm sorry I got a little crazy there, but it's a real huge pet peeve of mine. Okay, I'm okay now.
Chris, you can have phone sex, but you can't have remote sex. So this is the same kind of thing.
I think Chris can prove you wrong on that.
Oh, God.
Some things that done right needs a physical interaction. Exorcism is one of those things. A good portion of our practice is sorcery. And when I do sorcery, I can do some of that remotely if I have biologicals and all this business. I can do some protection in this way. By sending my demons to protect someone, I can do that kind of thing. But when you're going into the boxing ring, to go in there and drag out the opponent, If you can do it on Skype, more power to you, but I don't see how it's possible. I don't think it's effective. I don't think it's an option. I think it also, if that were to actually happen, then the possession was not real to begin with. Sometimes people need to be talked out of it crazy, and that might be, what some people think they're doing. But to talk about doing exorcism remotely means that you don't know what exorcism is. I would go as far as to say that. To do exorcism, you must get in there and present yourself to the demon and say, 2 of us came in, 1 of us is walking out. That's the deal. That's the deal I'm going to make with you. There's not another level of deal to be made. And I know the one that's walked me out is going to be me. So as long as it takes, I'm going to stay here and take care of it. Certainly cannot do that remotely. I agree.
And Victor?
I agree 100%. What you do, if you can do what you do remotely, they'd probably die in the process of doing it. No one could do what you do.
I agree with that. And Sorceress brought up something. She said that you could do some protections remotely, and she could send her an attending demon to protect somebody. I would love to share a story with you. Now, Sorceress, I don't know if you ever heard me tell the story on Second Sight. I know that Victor and Jeremy have, but we have a lot of new listeners on this network, and they've never heard the story. Years ago, there was a house where I was going to do an exorcism at night. I was working during the day. I couldn't get there until the nighttime. The person who lived in the house, he was being attacked rather severely, and he called some morning. He just got into work, and he says, "Chris, you gotta come. You gotta come here right now. I can't take it. They're gonna kill me. They're gonna kill me." And I said, "Listen, you need to calm down. Just get out of your house. I'll be there tonight with my team. I'll take care of this tonight. I cannot get there now. Please, you have to come." And I said, "I can't do it. I'm sorry. You have to wait for tonight. Just leave your house. I need you to be safe." So what happened was he says, "You know what? I'm going to do what you do. I'm going to invite the spirit into me." I said, "Listen, you dumb bastard, don't do that. You're going to make things so much harder for me. Don't do that." And he hangs up the phone. So now I'm task for me to do what I have to do. For me, So one of my spirit guys, actually my main like Jeremy. He's from the South, and he speaks with a very heavy Southern accent. And he looks at me, and he calls me Chris Chirilli. He says, "Chris Chirilli, don't worry about it. I'm going to go over it. I'm going to take care of all this." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" So now here no idea what's going on. My guide isn't coming to me telling me anything. So I'm kind of like left in the dark here, thinking like, what the frig am I walking into now? So what happened? I get to the house around 9:15. I knock on the door. He walks to the door. All he has on are a pair of Fruit of the Loom underwear, no shirt, no nothing, just underwear, and his hair is all crazy. He looks at me, and I'll never, ever in my life will I ever forget this. I had like 5 people with me that were there with me. He looks at me and goes, "I don't know why I've been talking like I'm from the South all day, but I gotta tell you, you're really, really good." And I almost dropped dead right there because I knew my guide had jumped into him.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear you, Sorceress.
I think we've lost Chris.
Yeah, I think we lost Chris. Okay.
Well, while Chris is off, we have to go back to the remote sex story. I have a quick story to tell. We were on Voxer.
Hang on a second. He just sent me a message that says he lost signal, so I guess he'll come back in. Go ahead.
Okay. We were on Voxer, which is like a push-to-talk app. I was talking to him, and he just finished speaking, and this voice come across the Voxer and said, "You smell so good." And I asked him, I said, "Dude, do you have your TV on? You know, is there anybody else there with you?" He's like, "Yeah, I have my TV on, but I'm watching a prison show." I'm like, "You need to go back and listen to that Voxer." And
okay, I'm back.
He went back to listen to it, and, you know, he heard, "You smell so good." Yes, Chris, I'm telling that story.
Oh, great.
So Chris was getting crushed on by a spirit, you know, while he was watching a prison show.
Well, hold on a second. First of all, I need to say that chicks dig me. So why wouldn't the spirits dig me? I mean, come on, it's just the way it is. But can I actually finish my story? What did you guys hear?
I don't know. I lost you pretty early.
Well, the bottom line is, when I got to the guy's house, he started talking like my spirit guide with a southern accent. And his wife was screaming at me, "What happened to him? He's talking like he's from the South." And that was my spirit guide. He went there, obviously jumped in, and protected him until I got there to actually perform the exorcism. I thought it was pretty interesting. It was the first time I'd ever seen a spirit, you know, do that. And I just thought that was a really amazing event that happened.
Do you have an ongoing relationship with one spirit guide? Is that like my 10 years?
Yeah, well, like there's one particular guide I'm very, very close with. He actually speaks with me every single day. And he said, "I'm going to help you." And I didn't realize when he said that he was actually going to jump into this guy. And it was like this guy channeled him for the whole day. And he was talking like he was from the South, and he protected him until I was able to help him. I thought it was amazing. Are we having more technical difficulties here tonight?
Hello?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Well, Victor, are you with us?
I'm here.
All right. Well, take over, buddy.
Well, let's see what we have going on here. We're talking about remote, and I just want to make one comment. I know I absolutely agree with both of you about remote exorcism, but Chris and I do disagree, or maybe we don't, I'm not sure. I'm very much into energy healing, and I believe energy healing can be done remotely. It's something I've been doing for 30 years and have a very strong foundation in it. The concept of energy is that energy is not just in one location, it's everywhere. And the fact that you can connect with someone else on an energetic level without physically being present with them, I believe, is very, very, in my experience, has been very powerful.
I do agree.
Well, I got to tell you, Victor,
remotely. A lot of my poetry is done remotely, and the term remotely in that sense is kind of odd to me, because if I'm talking to somebody who is, say, on the West Coast, not on the East Coast of America, or most of my clients, most of my clients are in other countries, we are having the same energy. We have the same blood. I mean, at the end of the day, remember that my work is that I'm a blood source. I have blood, that guy has blood. We both have the same amount of iron in our blood. We're both attached to this giant rock that has this amazing magnetic energy in the center of it. So there is no difference between me being 3,000, 7,000 miles away and being next to a person when I'm doing healing or protection or any other kind of blood sorcery, because it's unlike possession or habitation. I'm not going inside of them anyway. So what difference does it make if they're in the room or if they're on the other side of the planet? It's irrelevant in sorcery. It is not irrelevant in exorcism and work and possession, because you're dealing with a third party who is not made of blood, does not have iron, and is not sharing that energy experience with you. And I think that's the difference between those two issues.
Absolutely, and I think the word remote, the vernacular, it's a poor choice of words, but as opposed to be physically present in the same space with the person, I think that's why the expression remote came about.
Right, but Victor, we're never exactly in the same place if you think about it. If you and I are sitting right next to each other, at any place in the world, if we are right next to each other, we are not inside of each other in any way. And if you say to me, I am experiencing migraines, you say to me to heal that, and I can certainly do that. I'm not going to use a different process. And I would use if you were 3,000 miles away. The process is the same. That's the work that I talk about. That's what the static practice is, and that's what blood surgery is. And because we are sharing the human experience, to that point when somebody is being possessed or inhabited by a disincarnate, which is a formerly living human being who is no longer living, because they can do those possessions, of course. I handle things very differently than I handle it.
Right. Right.
Well, I'm a big believer in remote healing. There's a huge difference between remote healing and remote exorcism, and I know Sorceress just pretty much touched on that, but I'm a big believer in remote healing. I do it. I teach it in my psychic development classes. It's not the same. I'm a big believer that you can do certain things remotely, absolutely. But when it comes to exorcism, which is such an intense, physical, mentally draining, physically draining, emotionally draining event, I can't imagine how anybody, and I would love to meet the person who can actually do it, because it can't be done. So when it comes to remote healing, that's one thing, and when it comes to remote exorcism, that's a whole other thing. So, Jeremy, I know you wanted to bring something up. Okay, I think we lost Jeremy. So, why don't you let our listeners know where they can contact you and, maybe get your books and whatnot?
Well, I recently put up a new website called CagliastroTheIronRing.com. I started the Iron Ring as my group of students and individuals who want to work with me on projects. It's a project that I have coming up, which is called the Blood Project, where we will be developing using magnets in our own blood, essentially a consistently operating factory and a place in which the disincarnate can be seen by other people at the same time. That is the effort of the work, to prove that they are there and to have anybody come in and be part of it and see what we're doing. So this is a project that's coming up. I've also been doing something called the Firm, where people can come together. All of my course students and the people who I have taught come together to work on a project for a person or a company or whatever, all together in sorcery and divination, as well as necromancy and these sorts of materials. But everything that I do can be found in my online classes. I teach a lot of online live feed classes. I don't use Skype or something like go to meetings. It can be recorded and it's a more stable connection. And I do live workshops. Everything is on CagliastroTheIronRing.com, and all of my books are on Amazon.com. The second blood surgery Bible book, is really the better choice for people who have an understanding of energy and physics and want to know how to do the kinds of things Victor was talking about, where you're working from any kind of distance, because we all are part of the same energy. So everything is on CagliastroTheIronRing.com, and there's also a mailing list there if you get the contact tab and you want to be on the mailing list. One of my assistants will make sure that you get at least once or twice a month an update of what's going on with the experiments that I'm doing, the laboratory work that I'm doing. At the end of the day, I do want to produce an enormous amount of data on the disincarnate and the sorcery that I do. Does that help?
That was outstanding. Now, Sorceress, we've spoken about this before on Second Sight, and I think that this is something really important to bring up. I get people who come to me. I teach psychic development, and I know you teach classes as well. There are people that want me to teach them how to do exorcism. You can't teach what I do. You can't. I don't believe you can teach it, because you have to know how to. It has to be in you. Okay. That being said, for me, I'm going to, with you, it's blood sorcery and necromancy. With me, it's psychic development. I know that there are people that come to me for classes, and I tell them, you know what, I don't want to teach you. I don't think you're ready. I don't think this is right for you. And I turn people away, and I feel bad, but I just, I need a certain type of person that comes to me. They have to want it, they have to love it, they have to live it. And if people come to me where it's more or less a joke, I can't teach them. Is there anybody? What type of person do you look for when they? And I know people reach out to you to mentor them and whatnot. What type of person do you look for? And is there a person that you would, absolutely just turn away?
I've tried a lot of people away, Chris. I figured out recently that I probably say yes to about 1 in 11 or 12 people to even just start a preliminary experience of learning the work. First thing that I do is I say, okay, you have to have a consultation with me, and a consultation is an hour or two, and we talk about the things they never thought they'd be asked. It's hardcore. I don't feel bad when I turn somebody away. I think I've done them a favor, not wasted their time or mine, or what I like in my private place, because they don't have to encounter that either. So I'm very, very careful about who my students are and who I teach this work to. These classes that I do, the online classes, it was originally an idea that I have so that I could at least put an outreach out there so people could have an opportunity to experience some of the work in a one-to-one class online, and we could get to know each other. That is not what happened, and an amazing and powerful thing happened. I developed a core group of students that are learning this way, and those are the only people I'm continuing with in this way. I have another group of classes coming up. People can talk to me about whether or not they want to be in them, and then we can do what I call the interview consultation. They have to be serious about the work, and by serious about the work, I mean that they have to be open to what the work really is, which is more often than not what they thought it was. So that's a big question. I say, do you understand that you will be giving up an enormous amount of what you consider normal in your life? People will start to get away from you. This is what will happen. People will become fascinated with you. You will have psychopaths if you get even half as capable in this game as I am. And I say game because it's all about strategy. It's all about how to handle the work, how to place it in your life. So I say no to most people, actually. But a lot of people ask.
That's interesting.
Go ahead.
Wow. And Victor, what about you? I mean, I know you haven't taught so much in a while, but when you do teach and you do take on somebody to mentor, are there certain people that you'll take and certain people that you won't?
Yeah, I've been teaching a class called Enervision for since 99 or 2000. And I teach it every couple of years, and the essence of the class is to allow people to experience the human energy field in whichever way they do, either by feeling, by seeing, by hearing, or touching, or by sensing, gut sensing. And everyone has an experience, and once in a while someone will come up to me and say, I'd really like to extend my study with you. And I think since 1999 or 2000, so 14 or 15 years, I've taken on 4 serious students. That's it.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Well, I had no idea. And
the reason behind that is because unless someone is really serious, and I'm sure sorcerers will agree, and I know you'll agree, unless someone is truly serious about and dedicated to doing this work and really expanding their knowledge and expanding their experience of not only the energy but the universe itself, this is something that's a lifelong dedication. And if you're not going to make that dedication, if you just say I want to do this and have the experience and then walk away, I'm not going to waste my time or their time in teaching them.
I agree with that. See, with me, I'm all about respect. I grew up in a traditional Italian house where you respected your elders, you respected everybody. I know maybe people who know me from Facebook think that, maybe I disrespect quite a few people, but I really don't. I'm very respectful to everybody until you really twist my onions. But when it comes to teaching, I'm the same way. First of all, you have to show me respect. That's number one. Number two, you have to show spirit respect. That's very important to me, extremely important. And number three, you can't make that. It can't be a joke. It has to be something you're very serious about. Because the second you're not serious, to me, that's disrespectful, and I can't handle that. I can handle a lot. But once you start disrespecting spirit and you start disrespecting me, that's where I draw the line. Even with paranormal investigating, people say it's a hobby. Okay, it's a hobby, whatever. But I take that seriously when I investigate. When I see people who come to an investigation and they think that they're Zach Baggins and they're all disrespectful and yelling and cursing at the spirit and provoking like in a very negative way, that's very disrespectful to me. You got to go. and I throw them right out. I won't deal with it. I don't play that game. It's all about respect. You have to respect me. You have to respect yourself. And more than anything, you damn well better be respecting spirit, because if not, I'm not the guy you want teaching you at all. It's all about respect.
Chris, for me, in addition to that, though, it's also about what is your intention. You're coming to me to study with me. Why? Why do you want to do this study? What are you looking for? What is the outcome you're looking for? What is your true intention? And a lot of people do it because, I want to be a psychic, or I want to impress my friends, or I want to have the ability to control energy so I can make people do things I want them to do. All the negative and childish and very base reasons for doing the work. And that's a lot of the times why I turn people down.
You know, you mentioned Zach Baggins, and every time you mention his name, I'm reminded of the very first episode of Ghost Adventures, or whatever that show is, where he hops into the cast iron bathtub.
I know the episode.
And acts like he's slicing his wrist and says, "Oh, look at me, I'm slicing my wrist just like you did," and then laughed about it. Yeah, it just really bothers me. It really does. I can't get that image out of my mind about him. So,
well, see, then you're a smart man, Jeremy, because that's not the way to do things. You know, I'll tell you what. I've been on investigations, and I don't know if Sorceress has done many investigations, but Victor I know has. You know, you could put any team out there, and you put Second Sight out there, and we do things the right way. We're very respectful of spirit, and we get amazing evidence. And then you get the team there that, you know, that they all think that they're Zach Baggins, and at the end of the night, they're like, well, you know, there really wasn't much activity here. And I'm like, really? Would you like to hear my EVPs? Would you like to see my videos? There was plenty of action here. And then it comes down to respect. Even when it comes to investigating, it's all about respect. And I know, Sorceress, I know you're going to agree with me with that.
Well, of course it does, because I live my life in service to the incarnate. I don't think I know who. Is that the guy with the short brown hair who's been in this game on TV for a really long time? If you're talking about that.
Yes.
I know this is going to sound ridiculous. I don't have a television. I don't watch a lot of television. And I'm not saying that to be, you know, like an idiot that people can say that. It's not true. I don't. I don't watch paranormal stuff because I remember seeing one of these shows, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I was in a hotel somewhere, and I thought it was a parody. I didn't even really understand what I was looking at.
Yeah,
For me, at the end of the day, it comes down to me and the disincarnate, and me and the demon. And that makes it my work. I don't need, to me, the collecting of evidence personally, and I understand the point of it, because I understand why you do it. You're in service in a different way. I am in service in a much more private way. I work all the time. I could work 24 hours a day. There's always people who want me to do this work with them. But at the end of the day, for me, it is me and the entity. So the idea that you would be disrespectful and shouting and all this business, I think that for me, my understanding is just leave it in the hands of the dead, because they will take care of this guy. You know, at the end of the day, he's like any bully. He's going to push the wrong kid into the fence, and it's going to happen. That's the way it works. You can only be a jackass for so long until you meet somebody who is either a bigger jackass or has no patience for jackasses. And when that individual happens to be disincarnate or a demon, then the tally gets, you know, made up much faster. So just stand by and watch. If that's what this guy is doing, then it'll happen.
You know, Sorceress, I am a firm believer that the road to success is paved with failure. Have you ever had an exorcism that you could not handle by yourself?
No. I want to say yes. I'm looking for that one. I want to say yes to that, Jeremy. It has not happened. This has been something I've been able to do my whole life. I've never had a circumstance where I could not find the demon, could not control the demon, and could not break the demon. I will tell you that there was one that I stayed in for 3 days. And that was a very long time ago. I didn't even know my husband yet, so it has to be more than 16 years ago. And wow. It was 3 days, and it was hot, and there was a lot of physical damage on both parts when we were done, but we got done. And I think about that one a lot, and here's what I know about it. It would not have been simpler to do now. That is a very ancient demon. It came with a pack of other demons that were very interested in me losing. If it wasn't for 9 and my attending demons, I would be dead. I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever about that. But I work alone. However, the individual who was inhabited was a 14-year-old boy. A very big, tall, strong 14-year-old boy who was so easily penetrated by this demon that he was acting in all manner of crazy and inappropriate ways. 3 days, the family had the grace and fortitude to leave me alone with it, and job got done. That was as close as I got to bowing out, but I've never been anywhere near that close again.
That's interesting. You know, so I've never been to one where I couldn't handle either, and like you, I want that one because you know you want to be challenged and you want to see how much you can take and what you can do, and what you're capable of. That being said, I have an interesting story that I have a feeling you're going to appreciate. And I hate bringing this bitch up, but we know a person, Sorceress and I'm going to say it. And I haven't ragged her on this show yet, but I'm going to do it tonight. Her name is Jackie Barrett, and she claims to be a voodoo priestess and whatever. You know, you can believe whatever you want about the woman. I couldn't kill her. Anyway, she's supposed to be this world-famous voodoo priestess, and she had an exorcism that she had to do, and which is a joke because she doesn't know how to do it. And for an Olympic silver medalist, okay, a woman who won an Olympic silver medal. So you know right off the bat this is a strong woman, a smart woman, you know, somebody who can really handle herself. Long story short, Jackie couldn't do it, and she called me and she said, "Chris, I need you." And when I heard her say those words, it made me a little giddy inside. Sorceress, I'm sorry, I got giddy. I can't help it because to hear that wench, you know, say, "I need you, Chris," made me really happy. Now, this is before I really despised her. So I went in and I did this exorcism for this woman, and, you know, whatever, I did it. But she touts herself as this amazing exorcist and this amazing voodoo priestess, and, you know, there's nothing she can't do, blah, blah, blah. She called me to take care of the exorcism because she couldn't do it. Now I know you love to hear that, Sorceress.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say about the woman, but, you know, all I'm going to say is, people, be careful who you call. All right? Just because somebody has a lot of information on them on Google, and, you know, you can Google somebody and, you know, there's all these things about them. Do your research. Look deeper into your research. Talk to people first. See what they're about. Don't just say, "Oh, people say that she's a voodoo priestess, she can help me." No, she can't help you. And a lot of other frauds and fakes are out there. And that's what I want to bring up next, Sorcerer. All these frauds and fakes that are out there, people who say they can do things and they can't, or they promise something and then people get paid for it and then they don't do it. What do you think about that? Because this is a huge, huge pet peeve of mine. I see it all the time. Just in the psychic realm, just in giving readings, I see this. Now, forget about exorcisms. Just in reading, I see, I have to say 6 in 10 psychics out there are frauds. That's my opinion, maybe even more. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that.
Well, you know, Chris, in any field there are fakes. The problem with fakes in this field is people could die. To me, the idea that you would dabble in exorcism or dabble in sorcery, and I've said this a million times, is like dabbling in surgery. Except that when you dabble in sorcery, everybody could die, including the surgeon, who is the first dabbling and pretending to be sorcerer. I use the term sorceress because I've earned it. I've been doing this for decades with my life's work, and I know how to do it. You want to tell people who I've done it for, here's their numbers, call them. This is the kind of thing that I do. The fakes in this field upset me greatly because people are truly exposing their nerves to you. They are coming to you because nothing else has worked.
That's
you know,
right.
that scene, and not to always go to a film or anything, but you know the scene of The Exorcist where she says to him in the park, because the priest in the park, I don't want to hear whatever you're saying, just save my kid. And that has always been a sort of a scene that's stuck in my head, and I think that's how people talk to me. They say, I don't care if you believe in God and you don't. We tried that. That didn't work out. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you look like. You just come here and save my kid. And I hear that kind of thing a lot from people, both on my sorcery work and my work with you. So if you're a fraud in this field, then, I don't believe in karma. I believe that we stand in the truth of what we're doing in the moment and we take responsibility for it. I can't speak for the demons, though, and they don't like to be screwed with by frauds and fools. And there are plenty of them. Unfortunately, in the world of voodoo, I have great respect for voodooists, for genuine voodooists. I think that path is an enormous undertaking and powerful and amazing. It's not my path, but I understand and respect it. When people say that they are either sorcerers or they are voodooists and they are not, that is, to me, like a pin in the eye. I just want to take them down. I have an enormous revenge reaction when I do that kind of thing.
And Victor, what do you have to say about that? I know we've had, plenty of conversations on frauds and how they undermine what we do and make it harder for us. What are your thoughts on them?
Well, I agree with everything that you and Sorceress have shared. I just want to say a little bit more about these so-called paranormal investigators on television who try to, I hate this provoking spirit, or what you were talking about with Zach Baggins making fun of spirit. I am very sensitive to what Sorceress refers to as disincarnate spirits that were formerly human, are now in spirit form or energy form, and have not gone on to whatever it is people believe that they go on to, and each of us has their own view of that. And my work, what I've been dedicated to over the last 30 years, and which I take a lot of pride in, is respectfully working with spirit, with disincarnate spirit, to rectify, to do it, whatever it is that their energy is intended to do in terms of finding finality and leaving this earthly plane. And I take it as a very serious responsibility. I would say to these people who do this provoking and this antagonism to get EVP evidence or photographic evidence or whatever it is they're trying to establish or prove, that if there were a living person, a member of their family there, would they talk to them that way or act that way? Because disincarnate spirit are people who have lives, just like you and me right now with flesh. And to talk to them disrespectfully, to taunt them in the name of entertainment is totally disrespectful. And I'm not a person who uses the word hate. I don't like to use the word hate. I don't like to say hate or despise. But it really just it takes away my trust and my comfort in the human condition when I see people do things like that.
Oh, that's very, very, very well said. Now, but Vic, how do we educate people on that? How do we let people know that there are certain ways of doing things when, you have the media, you have television out there, showing them a different way, showing them the wrong way? And I'll ask you that as well, Sorceress. How do we let people know that they're doing it the wrong way? Because it's something that it irks me when I see people, like when I see psychics and I know that they're robbing people, and I see people saying that they're doing exorcisms. I know they're not doing a friggin' thing, and you see investigators and they're doing all this provoking and all this stuff, and it's the wrong way. How do we teach them when television tells us otherwise? Sorceress, I'll ask you that first.
Well, Chris, there's two things we can do. First of all, we can do what we are doing, which is do it right. And that is always the ultimate testament to how to express what works, what doesn't work, who's a fraud, all of these businesses, to do it right. The other thing is to talk about it. And this kind of a show, the books that I write, this kind of work is necessary. I believe that, I don't really like the word believe. I have the experience that if you are strong in your testament to what you do, if you have a commitment and you're doing it in a right and appropriate way, then part of the responsibility of that is to talk about it, write about it, get it out there. I mean, we can bash psychics all day long, and we can bash, fake voodooists with fake eye contact, and you won't know who I'm talking about, as much as we want to. But it falls on more willing ears when we talk about what does work. And I'm not saying that I am in any way, shape, or form afraid of or not desirous of bashing those who are fakes in this world, in this business. And it is a business in that sense. It is a path, but it is, in that sense, it's a business. I will bash them endlessly. I'll talk about them openly. I don't care about that. But at the end of the day, what is best received is to talk about the work that we are doing that is working appropriately and to remain in respect through this incarnate. This is the big deal. I love what you said, Victor. If it was a live person in your family standing there, we talk to them this way. I love that. I'm going to remember that forever because that was so powerful.
Absolutely. Vic, do you want to add anything to that?
Just, I think we're all in agreement on this. And I think the one thing that I would say, if someone is working with you, if you bring someone into your home to work with this incarnate spirit, and there are a lot of people who generally do this work. There are friends of mine, friends of Chris's, and I'm sure friends of Sorcerers who generally do this work. What I suggest to you is when they're done, are you left with a feeling of compassion and peace and comfort? And if you're not, then they're not doing the right job.
That's right. I agree with that completely. This has been a fantastic show. I don't know if you guys agree that are listening. I can't imagine you don't agree. This has been an amazing show. But you know what, Jeremy? I'd like to ask you that question because Sorceress, what you don't know about Jeremy is he never believed in psychics. He never believed in any of this stuff. Okay, so coming from somebody who was a non-believer. Jeremy, what do you have to say to that about the fakes and the frauds and actually finding people who are good at what they do?
Look,
what's your thoughts on that?
You know what? Here's the thing, and for new listeners, a quick rundown. My mother fell for. She believed in a fake psychic, and that caused me to lose a bunch of my gemstones, and my great-grandmother lost $2,000 because of it. And I told Chris, very first thing, I don't like psychics. I hate psychics. But you know what? Now, hey, you know what? A psychic is my best friend. And I do believe that there are people that have the gift of foresight and the gift of healing, and I'm friends with two of those, Chris and Vic, and Sorceress Cagliostro. I had a problem with believing that people had those gifts in the beginning, but Chris proved otherwise.
Well, one thing I want to say to that, Jeremy, and Sorceress, and I'm sure I know you're going to agree with this. I never try and prove myself ever. I don't think I have to. I think, if you're coming to me for a reason. You know about me. You know I'm the real deal. You know I don't beat around the bush. You know I do things the right way. I'm not about proving myself. If somebody comes up to me and tells me, prove to me you're psychic or read me, it's not happening. Have a nice day. I'm the wrong guy. Go to the $10 palm reader on the corner or something like that, and I'm not the guy. Don't come to me I'm not proving myself to anybody. I do what I do, and by doing what I do, I prove myself every single day. What do you think about that, Sorceress?
Well, I'll tell you, I wrote a little book called Divination, a manual for the practitioner, and what it is, it's actually a pretty new book. It was a transcript of a 3-hour class I did on divination. And it's a powerful little book because what I deal with is dealing with the client, not proving yourself. There is a very big difference between divination and fortune telling. And I'll talk quite a bit about what the difference is. I don't have to prove myself. An enormous portion of my work is readings and consultations. And people say to me after the reading or part of the way through the reading, I didn't expect it to be like this. And I said, well, what did you expect it to be like? And they said, well, I thought I'd ask questions and you'd answer them. And I asked questions and you'd answer them. I said, it's fortune telling. That's not what we're doing here. What we're doing here is covering an aspect of your life, looking at all the possibilities, and giving you information based on my instinct, what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing from you, and what I'm talking to the different planets around you, and what they're bringing forward. So I always have the experience where the person gets off the end of the reading with me, and they feel that an enormous change has occurred in their life because they have some clarity and some truth. That's all I have to do. I just have to come in and be honest and truthful and use my skills to the best of my ability, and the rest is the rest. That's it. That's the game. That's the story. That's the job, and that is the work and the passion that I do. When someone comes to me for sorcery, I do the same thing. Someone comes to me for sorcery, that's a big project. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. It's just all about the dignity of doing things to the best of your ability, and that is why I'm well respected in this work. You know, divination is a big part of my work, and there are more frauds in that area of this work than anywhere else.
Outstanding. Victor, is there anything you want to add to that?
Just that I know that I've done my job when the person I'm working with at the end, when the spirit is crossed or sent on to wherever it's supposed to be sent on to, and they come and they give me a hug, and the both of us stand there crying, holding each other. I know I've done my job.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, we had, so for this week, we had on a psychic named Joyce Kala. She's a very close personal friend of mine, and she told the story about the first time she came to one of my seances. This is before she ever knew me. We had spoken on the phone. I did her radio show. It went over really well, and I invited her to my home when I did a seance. There was maybe 20 people there, and what she said was, first of all, she realized I was the real deal. She says, but when she saw how people were crying and slobbering all over me and hugging me and kissing me, and I had no idea that this was going on because I was in trance the whole time, she says, I knew you were doing something right. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but I really needed a shower after that. But that's just a little sidebar. Victor, you got another question there?
I think Jeremy does.
Go for Jeremy.
1 second. I lost my spot.
Number 4. Number 4.
The question that I had was, are there any cases where a human would not let go of the spirit or did not want to let go of the spirit that was haunting them or possessing them?
I have a story about this straight up, and it's just like struck a nerve with me. Recently, there was a young boy who I was working with who was in this habitation, which I understand is different than a possession. The habitation is where a disincarnate comes and goes, and at some times is involved with speaking to this boy and being involved with this boy, and sometimes is not. It's not necessarily logical, but it does occur. And I met with his family, and I sat with the boy, and I said to the mother, you must leave the room. I want to be alone with this boy, and I want to hear what's going on here. And I did that, and I came to understand that the boy was being inhabited by the mother's dead brother. So I went back to the mother, and we sat and we talked, and I told her what my discovery was, and I offered her maybe 24 specific pieces of information that would make it clear that it was her dead brother, so she would know who I was talking about. I always do that. I want to make sure I'm talking about the same person. She looked me straight in the face, and she said, oh, great, then let's leave it the way it is. I said, what? She said, yeah, I really miss him. And my son John, he's got a lot of years in front of him, so it doesn't matter to me if some of his time is spent having my brother talk to him. And I was so startled, and I said to her, that's not really acceptable. And I explained to her how her son has the right to his life without this other individual in his experience, and we finally got her to agree that I could proceed and remove this inhabitation. And I found that to be quite startling. So it wasn't her inhabitation, but it was her young son, and she really did not want to let it go.
Yeah, I've seen that before. I want to bring up something that happened a while back. So, do you know a place called? Have you ever heard of Creedmoor Psychiatric Hospital?
Oh yes, of course. Yes.
Okay. There was a guy there, a kid. He wasn't a kid. He was 29 years old. He had lived there for 10 years of his life. 10 years he lived there, and doctors couldn't help him. There was nothing that they could do to help. More than medication. The kid, only time he went outside is when his parents would come to visit. They would let him out in the courtyard. That's it. Okay, for 10 years, from 19 to 29. So they said, Chris, I would love for you to, meet my son. Maybe you could do something. I said, okay. I go and meet him. I immediately saw that he had an attachment. And I told him, I said, he has an attachment. I can get rid of it. Once I get rid of it, the doctors can actually help him. So right away they thought I was, full of baloney. So I told him, you know what? How about this? How about I do it, and then when it works, then we could talk about it later, about taking care of me. Okay. I went there. I did what I did. I got rid of this attachment. It was absolutely insane. Okay. 10 months later, after 10 years in Creedmoor, this kid went home. Why? Because he had an attachment. And the medication can't help an attachment. Once the attachment was gone, once the entity was gone, then the medication actually started working on this kid. And to me, that's absolutely, that's off the hook amazing, And have you ever seen something like that?
Well, I'll tell you this one other story briefly. I had a client, I guess about 5 or 6 years ago, who said to me, he's pretty much debilitated. He's on all kinds of medication. He was in his 30s, and he was schizophrenic and all of these other kinds of diagnoses. And I said to him, why are you calling me? He said, I don't want to get attached to these diagnoses. Same people talking to me all the time. I feel like I'd be okay if everyone would leave it alone. And that was him. I did a lot of work with him, many hours of spent. And I said to him, I'm going to meet you where you live. And I went to where he lives, and I worked with him. We walked on the land of his house. And I'm seeing a full battle going on. And I said to him, do you know what land you live on? And he said, oh, yes, the Civil War battlefield. I said, who were you hearing? And we were able to hear the same people. What we discovered was he was just an unbelievably open individual. And the disincarnate would talk to him on a regular basis, 4 of which had befriended him since his childhood. And now, not only is he free from the medication, he does that work. He is a necromancer now. He talks to people and communicates with their disincarnate to them. That's his work now. So he went from pretty much being, something that's home all the time under medication to a person that's fully working in this field.
Outstanding. Very, very interesting. Vic, you had something there?
Yeah, just to go back to Jeremy's original question about people not being willing to let go. In my capacity as an interfaith minister, I've worked many times in hospice situations where people are close to death and their families are around them. And you can literally see them projecting these energy strings, holding on to the person and not letting them go, not letting their spirit go. And it's one of the challenges is that when someone does go, if the people in the family still continue to hold on with these strings, that keeps that disincarnate spirit present. And some of the work that I've done is help families to prepare in hospice situations to allow their loved one to let go, to have closure at the end, and then very, very peacefully and lovingly send that spirit on.
Good job, Mr. Fuhrman. Good job.
Have you noticed, Victor, that more people finally die when their family's out of the room for a minute?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They call me when someone in their family's about to die. I've done a lot of those. And you sit there, and as soon as people walk out of the room, they let go.
Absolutely. One of the things that I've done is created an actual ritual where each person in the family has a few minutes to quietly spend and say what they want to say to the person, whether they're conscious or not. And then after everyone has completed their final sharing with the person, we all stand around the bed holding hands and beam just love and compassion and beautiful energy and allow the spirit to leave. That's very special.
That's very wonderful. And I'm grateful to hear that you do that, Victor, because I have a person in service for disincarnate. That is a tremendous offering. Thank you for that.
We have a question for a sorceress from Tamara in the chat room. She says that she's been told that people have a guardian angel, a spirit guide, and a demon. They are usually there from birth. Is this true?
Well, all I can speak on is attending demons because that is my experience. I don't grasp this concept of angels because it's such a commonly used word. It means something different to everybody. So the spirit guides. So for me, those are not in my area of expertise. I think that there are attending demons for many of us. I have not yet seen the evidence, because I live in the world of the science of sorcery. I have not yet seen evidence that there is an attending demon for each of us. There seems to be attending demons to people who want to do this work, which might have something to do with why they choose to do this work. But it is not my experience regarding those other two entities. That's what I would offer tomorrow.
All right. Well, thank you for that, sorceress. Now, we only have about 10 minutes left, and I know Jeremy puts effort into a certain segment we have on the show every week, and it's called Odd News. Jeremy, what do you got for us this week?
This week is the possession of 4 people in a family from Gary, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
The mother is LaToya Amos and her family. This is insane. It included the Department of Children's Services, 800 pages of documentation, a DCS intervention, a string of psychological evaluations, a police investigation, and ultimately a series of exorcisms from the Catholic priest. It all started during a wake when the 12-year-old was levitating above the bed, and then she come back down to the bed. She couldn't remember what happened. They contacted, a priest. They didn't want anything to do with it. So they contacted 2 clairvoyants that told them to burn sulfur and sage and make an altar in the basement and read Psalm 91 out loud. And for those of you that do not know, Psalm 91, known in Latin as Qui Habitat, which is He that dwelleth, is known as the Psalm of Protection and is commonly invoked in times of hardship. The mother and 3 children were possessed. Now, these clairvoyants told the mother that this house was possessed by 200 demons. I don't know what you guys think about that. I mean, is that excessive, sorceress?
I'll tell you that I have a personal connection to this case. One of the detectives spoke to me about this case. And,
I'm sorry?
I have a personal connection to this case. One of the detectives who was involved in personally with the Department of Children's Services, who felt that another activity may have been going on in the house, spoke to me about this case. And he seems like a very compassionate person to me, honestly. He didn't seem like a non-believer. I don't usually use that term, but the point of phrase. And he said to me he didn't feel like any of this was happening, and that this was an effort by the mother and an aunt to draw attention to the family for some other reason. They were told that there were 200 demons in the house. I don't know who came up with that number. As far as I understand, and the people I've spoken to about this case, there is no evidence of demonic possession. I've offered to go there. No one has responded yet.
I would love to go to that house, and when I hear that somebody was crawling up the wall backwards, Wait, Chris.
Here's the thing about the 9-year-old that was supposedly possessed that walked up the wall while holding his grandmother's hands and flipped over the grandmother, landing on his feet. Now, you weren't told. Nobody said, that the grandmother was holding his hands. See, supposedly, he was growling. They took him and his grandmother into an investigation room to question them, and he started growling while the grandmother grabbed his hands and started praying, and that is when he climbed up the wall. So therefore, all he had to do was push his hands forward, put his feet on the wall, and then, just flip over.
Absolutely, and that's probably what happened because when doing this as many years as I have, listen, I've been pushed, I've been hit, I've been thrown. I've never seen somebody. I've seen people possessed. I've seen them, their eyes go in the back of their head. I've seen them do spins and do a belly flop. I've seen all kinds of crap. Okay, I've never seen anybody walk up a wall backwards. That's me personally. I call bullshit on it.
Well, here's another thing. Here's another thing. The police department brought in one of their dogs. Now, we all know that animals can see, spirits, and Vic has said many times about his beloved wife that passed, that transitioned, that he was laying in the bed and the cats were, watching, looking, moving their head across the room. Am I correct, Vic?
That's correct, following her spirit across the room.
Yes. So this dog did nothing while it was in the house, and supposedly the mother and all 3 children were possessed. And while in the presence of this family, that dog did nothing.
Okay, I got something to say to that. I have something to say to that. Not every animal, just like not every human, not every animal is very, can pick up on spirit. I had a dog that spirit used to absolutely torture, okay? Every now and then we would, dog sit for another dog in the family, and while my dog was being tortured, the other dog was oblivious to what was going on. So just because the dog, and I don't know, Victor, Sosa, if you want to comment on this, just because the dog doesn't sense it doesn't mean it's not there. I just want to throw that out there. What do you guys think of that? Vic?
Oh, I agree with you. The animals don't always have to react to spirit being present, but I think the other issue here is what we're talking about is whether or not this thing was done. Let me ask you. I'm not familiar with that story, but did this family try and get a movie deal or a book deal or something like that?
Well, the thing is the Catholic priest finally did a series of exorcisms, and the family moved to Indianapolis. And the mother finally gained custody of the children back in 2013, last year. And the landlord, they were renting this house, and the landlord has another tenant in there, and that tenant has no problems whatsoever. There was no problems before or after these people lived in this house.
Yeah.
Interesting. Sources got cut off. Danny, I know she's in the queue. If you could bring her, back on. I mean, we only have a few minutes left, but I'd love to have her back on if you could get her. I know she's in the queue.
And while we're bringing her back on, let me give you a thought of the week. And it's kind of interesting that it ties into a lot of the stuff that I shared tonight. I've noticed recently that there are a lot of young people transitioning, a lot of young people dying. Cancers and heart problems, and you saw Jim Henson's son, John Henson, 48 years old, massive heart attack, and young people dying of cancer. And I have a lot of friends who are ill right now, and I've been doing a lot of hospital visits in the last couple of weeks. And the thought of the week comes from the wonderful Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh. And he said, if you love someone, the greatest gift you can give them is your presence. You have somebody in the hospital who's sick, you don't have to say a word. You can sit there and hold their hand and listen to them speak and share whatever they're sharing and give them the gift of your presence, because that's the greatest gift as human beings that we can give to one another.
Outstanding, Victor. Outstanding thought for the week. Outstanding. But you know what? I come to expect this from you. And Jeremy, I got to tell you, that was the perfect odd news to bring up this week. Great job by you. Sources, are you back with us?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes,
yep.
You are. Yes, you are. Sources, we have less than a minute and a half. I would love for you to put your information out there one more time before we say goodnight to everybody.
Sure. Everything that I do can be looked at and found at Tagliastro, theironradio.com. It's Tagliastro, theironradio.com, and you can get on the mailing list. And all of my books are available on Amazon.com. There's about 19 listings there between paperbacks and Kindles and all that. And I am available to consultations and people to see that I would find
Well, we love having you.
Thank you very much.
You know I'm going to ask you to come back on. As always, you were a fantastic guest. I'm going to say goodnight. Guys, why don't you say goodnight because we're about to get cut off, and I would hate for that to happen.
Good night, Sorceress. Good night, Jeremy and Chris. And to all of our listeners, thank you for making this another great show.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for listening. Have a good night, everybody. Oh, we got 10 seconds. All right, so I guess I'll say thank you one more time, and we need more listeners next week. We broke our record from last week, people. Thank you. Let's break the record next week. All right, we're done. I mean, other than some technical difficulties, I thought the show was great, guys.
It was great, and I think we're still alive, actually.
No, it goes dead after when it says 10 seconds, you're done. We're off the air. Sorceress,
I don't think so.
No, I'm telling you, we're definitely off. Sorceress, you were fantastic.
Sorceress?
Oh, we lost her. Oh, she just wrote to me on Facebook. Great show. Guys, you guys did a great job today. This was a really, really, really good show.
Thank you, Vic. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Now, who's our guest next week? Because honestly, I never put it in the calendar.
I think I did, didn't I?
I don't know. I didn't look. Do you know who our guest is?
I'll tell you in a minute if I have it written down here. Hang on one second. I thought I calendared it. Didn't we share that on Facebook together? We made a 1, 2, 3 on Facebook. Let me go to Facebook. Hang on. Let me get out of the chat room and go to Facebook. I'm pretty sure it was on Facebook. Hang on one second. Go to our messages.
You know, maybe next week we'll actually be on the website we're supposed to be on.
Hopefully.
Hang on. Where's the thing that says Chris and Jeremy and Vic? Where is it? Chris, Jeremy, Vic. Chris, Jeremy, Vic. Come on. You got to be here. Chris, that's Chris and Joe. We have too many connections, Chris, here. Here we go.
I'm telling you.
Come on. Previous. I want previous. Oh, come on. It's not there.
Oh, I don't know where it is either. Hold on. Hey, Jeremy, after we get off the line, I'm going to get in contact with Chris real quick. Then I'm going to call you. You going to be awake?
Yeah, I'll be awake.
All right.
Here we go.
Okay.
Oh, 228's Michelle Arbeau again, numerology.
Oh, so next week is Michelle.
Sweet.
Right, Michelle Arbeau, numerology. And then on 37, it's Margie K.
Yeah, the UFO crazy lady.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Chris, what was the number?
Outstanding. Well, the last one.
431-8214.
No, not that number.
Oh.
He didn't. Here he's writing it now. 6,032.
Great. That's 432 more than last week, right?
No, it's 12. It's almost 1,200 more.
1,200. Oh, 1,200 more. Oh, okay,
yeah.
Great.
We're getting there.
Thanks,
We're getting there. Before you know, we're going to be hitting 10,000, which is the first goal. So you guys are doing a good job. You guys are doing a really good job. Thank you, Danny. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, Victor, let's really push it this week. What I want to do is this is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to in Vision Quest. We're going to tell everybody to give their date. And we're going to, write everybody's name and their birth date, and we're going to give everybody readings this week. Everybody's getting readings.
Hey, Denny, one thing that I asked, man, if by Wednesday, if you find out that we're going to be back on Blog Talk, let me know Wednesday, man, so I can start pushing the Blog Talk instead of the DTM. I'd appreciate it very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Denny.
So that's what we're gonna do. We'll tell everybody, get a reading from celebrity numerologist Michelle Arbeau. Leave your birth date, and when we put it down, we gotta make sure we put their name and their birthday, so we can say, okay, Tamara, you're getting, this is your birthday reading, and so we can announce who it is. You know what I mean?
No, she's not getting the reading tomorrow. She's getting it today.
Victor, but are you always on?
What's that?
Vic is always on, man. He is always on.
Hey, Denny, you have a great night, too. Thank you very much.
Great night, everybody. Take care.
Right.
Chris, I'll call you tomorrow for the promo for next week.
You got it, my friend. And Jeremy, I'll call you in a few minutes, all right?
All right, buddy. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.